But Stryker's there because he knows of these bad things, because he is the general of the army Victor used to be a part of. And he says Stryker is acting like he wanted to warn him, but that would fail because he earlier on said that he wanted to recruit him. But even when he, of course, would have also had an ulterior motivation, it still doesn't mean that he isn't behind Wolverine, or that he's behind the situation, as Victor was also killing members that still seem to be loyal to his team, and there still seemed to be no apparent reason for Victor to be killing all of these people, including his wife, and he could still also be trying to warn Wolverine while wanting his help to fight him. It's just that he also uses the situation to his advantage. And also maybe he just came to do both. Also, Wolverine didn't hate him at this point yet, he just quit his army, and Victor had brute strength, but it is entirely possible that he isn't as durable and therefore wouldn't qualify for the procedure, because the Blockbuster complains that Victor should also just qualify for the procedure, and that they should have just been able to use him because he was able to defeat Wolverine. But just because you're a lot stronger than someone doesn't mean that you're as durable as them and can survive as difficult medical procedures. It's entirely possible that he didn't have the same level of healing factor, that he just had a lot more brute strength. Also, and I know all about things not qualifying, like Lutheranism, Calvinism, Baptism, Coptism, Eastern Orthodoxy, Arianism, Russian Orthodoxy, Greek Orthodoxy, Syrian Orthodoxy, Serbian Orthodoxy, Bulgarian Orthodoxy, the Church of England, and the Armenian Apostolic Church. And to those saying this is off the point, well, at least my religion isn't off the point. At least I don't claim to follow Jesus and then leave his church. And don't you dare saying Roman Catholicism was started by Constantine. He never became Pope, and he didn't introduce the deacons or the bishops. Oh, and he didn't appoint priests, he just helped spread the faith, as he was a Catholic, and he followed the Pope. He never introduced Christian doctrines. The Christian Church was not elected before that. It was not collective or anything before that. Before that was already a united organization, as religion is always united, as if you preach something and then don't appoint anyone to say exactly what that means, then everybody will just have their own interpretation, and that will defeat the point of saying it. And there were already loads of popes before Constantine, and there was already a whole system before that. And he did call upon the Nicene Creed, but he didn't make the decisions, and the doctrine was voted on by the universally approved of bishops, and the majority of them just voted for the Catholic causes. They were Catholics, and the Pope supported the eventually decided on doctrine. And the original Catholic one, that was the doctrine that was already laid out by the Pope. That was the one that won due to the voting process, and was just made the official doctrine of all the churches together who were still part of the Catholic Church. Like when to celebrate Easter. Yeah, the Catholic Church made rules for that in the early 2nd centuries. And the first defections started only decades later, and man, life is depressing. And then he escapes and claws his way out because, Wolverine hears that they want to erase his memory, and of course he then resists them because he realized they're using him, and he doesn't want to have his mind be mutilated, so obviously he would try to fight them, and he claws his way out and escapes, which is understandable as he is now super strong due to the adamantium skeleton, and he doesn't pass out from a bullet in the head, as it of course obviously just hit him in a different place or a different way. Just because a bullet knocked him out the next two doesn't mean it would automatically do that. And then he hides in the barn of a farm of a couple of old folks. And when they see him, they don't kill him or attack him, but give him clothes, feed him, and even when his new claws make him break things, they let him sleep in the barn. And also the husband shows him his old son's motorcycle and jacket, and is very kind and comforting towards him. And this is very deep and warm, that these old-fashioned farmers, based on their old-fashioned values not to judge and to be kind and supportive towards the helpless, are nice towards somebody who's helpless, even when he could be dangerous, as they don't know him and he's there naked in their barn. And it is believable that they would be so kind and that they wouldn't react more hostile, because Film Brain complains they should have reacted more hostile and it was unbelievable how nice they were. But it is believable and smart that they reacted so kindly, because they have old-fashioned values and they're very old people, and they believe in not judging people, and even when it's dangerous to help the helpless, they should still do so. Even when he could be a dangerous person because he's strange, they don't know him, they still feel like supporting him, because they're against leaving an innocent person alone to die in the cold or to starve. So that was very smart and very deep and warm. And the husband tries to advise him to do the right thing and not to create pointless bloodshed and to take revenge, as he can immediately notice Wolverine wants to take revenge, which is smart and believable, as Wolverine isn't very good at hiding his emotions, and Wolverine still ponders taking revenge on Victor, which is also smart, as he's of course still very hurt by what he did, and he almost considers it, but then Stryker sends an assassination team to take him down by surprise, which is smart, as of course, since he's so strong, it would be smartest to take him down by surprise, and of course, this results in the two getting shot, because they aren't nearly as well prepared for defending themselves as Wolverine is, so that was believable as well. And Wolverine takes them down with ease, which is also believable, as he's such a strong fighter and now is the indestructible adamantium skeleton, and now he decides to also go after Stryker, and becomes even more hellbent on taking down Victor, and totally ignores the advice of those kind people that helped him, which is believable, as he now saw them get hurt as well, and is even more angry now also at Stryker and at Victor for having caused all of this in the first place, so that was very smart and believable as well. And they didn't give the pilot the adamantium bullets, as they're very rare and valuable, and they didn't want to waste them unless they were absolutely necessary, and they didn't know for sure yet whether they were absolutely necessary, as they didn't know whether Wolverine would be able to defend himself all against the surprise attack. And, yeah, there are two of these, and it's kind of nice filling, but, Snicker is always, but, oh, this is the... You're probably thinking right now, didn't you make this joke already? Isn't this just repeating your old joke? But, wait, you're thinking that? Oh, you think this is a joke? No, I'm just gonna enjoy a nice chocolate bar. Screw you guys, I'm making a video for you here. You can wait for 5 seconds so that I can eat a candy bar. This is just my moment. Anywho, okay, let's continue. And then he goes to his old pals to get to know where Stryker and Victor are, and this is logical, as they are former soldiers of Stryker and friends of Victor, so they could know where Victor and Stryker are, and the Blob knows, and then Wolverine calls him Bob in an attempt to get him to tell him where they are, but he misunderstands this is Blob, and he gets angry and wants to fight Wolverine, and the spell suggests that he fights him first, he loses his anger and might tell him where they are, and this is believable, as when he fights the spell he might get calmer, and if he's calmer he might actually tell him where they are. And the Blockbuster Buster questions why he would first fight him instead of just threatening him right away, but it is logical, he thought that this would be easier, as it would allow him to refrain from having to threaten yet another person and getting into violence again. But it turns out that this doesn't work, so he has to threaten him after all, which is believable, as when he stays angry he has to threaten him in order to get him to tell where Stryker and Victor are. How immoral. Which brings me back. Sorry, but the Pope did not start with Leo I. We have writings of the 4th Pope, who was consecrated by Peter himself, where he already affirmed that there was official authority of bishops, as they'd been appointed, and shortly before that past apostles, and that the highest of them succeeded the apostles. This decision was accepted by and cherished by all the Catholics of the time, so all the Christians of the time, as it came from Peter's successor. So everybody back then thought that this was an important rule and allowed him to make crucial doctrine rules about the organization and the rules of the church back then, and everybody back then valued his authority. So that's a clear, very clear indication that the Pope had authority long before Leo I, long before Constantine, because the 4th Pope, the Pope consecrated by Peter himself, had the authority to decide what the authority of the bishops was, and all the Christians back then allowed him to decide the authority of the bishops, so he stood above the bishops, and he had the rights to make decisions about all the Christians and the organizations of the whole church. So that's a very, very clear indication that since all the Christians and Catholics, so everyone back then accepted his authority in standing above the bishops and making the doctrine of the church, that back then there was already a person who was the Bishop of Rome, who had shortly before that succeeded Peter with the authority to make all the doctrine within the church and the authority of a Pope. So that's a clear indication that the 4th Pope was already a real historical figure and not a fictional one. So screw you. And that's actually being a very good Catholic, because it's justified being a complete and utter a-hole to those that are wrong. He is without sin may throw the first stone, and I'm without sin, so take that. Take this also. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, it was so much accepted as it came from Peter's successor, and his succession was very clear at that point already, with Peter having appointed Linus as his first successor, and already having appointed a second successor who would succeed Linus, who became the third pope before Clement, and all the succession rules were detailedly documented in the 2nd century before any defections occurred whatsoever. And when they did, the pope automatically assumed supremacy, so it wasn't that there was one church founded later that assumed supremacy. There was one church, and then defections occurred, we automatically had the final authority. So Protestants, you're heretics. No, you're not Hephro-Orthodox or heterodox or whatever. You're heretics. Yes. Live with that. Why can't you just be honest about it? Why can't you just say, I'm a member of a Christian church that's a heretical church? I mean, you've got the right to want to be part of a heretical church, whatever gets you through the night, but, well, if you don't want to be a heretic, why be a heretic? Seriously. Just asking. So then he has to go look for Gambit, who was one of the only people to ever escape from the island, who could therefore tell him where the island with all the mutants is. Which of course makes sense, as since he had escaped from the island, he would know where it was, so therefore he could tell him where it is. And he assumes that Wolverine is a Striker soldier, and he therefore thinks that Wolverine is there to take him back, which is believable, as since he was a very valuable mutant, if Striker had sent a soldier after him, they would immediately want to take him back, and it's believable that you would think Wolverine was a soldier of Striker, as he has similar dog tags. And so then Gambit then attacks Wolverine, which is believable as he tries to defend himself from being taken back there. And so then it turns out that Victor Creed meanwhile attacks one of his friends who came with him to help him there in the bar, to help him search for Gambit. And it's, by the way, believable that one of his friends would help him fight Gambit, as he still has got some moral senses and a sense of loyalty left. And Victor tries to take him out and manages to do so, and manages to kill him and take his powers, which is believable as he wants to steal as many mutants' powers as possible. And he's of course an incredibly strong fighter. He managed to take out many mutants, and so then Wolverine runs into Victor, which is believable as they're close at about the same place, and so then he wants to fight Victor once again, as he's very vengeful, of course, still. So this made perfect sense and was very smart. He's still very vengeful and still wants revenge on him, as he of course killed his wife, and that's what he's going to Gambit for in the first place. And so then Scar exiles him from the kingdom and sends the hyenas after him in a treacherous move, but he manages to escape to the desert, and then Iron Man actually forgets about him and just deals with his problems with Pepper Potts, but he still cannot tell her that he's dying, although he tries to make this nice dinner for her, and she assumes that something is wrong, and